shine and smile.
Thank you. Hi, Philippe. Is that
Hello. This is just to make a test to see if you see the first image. Yes.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. But I will not start with that. I leave you starting the presentation probably.
Yeah, so let's have a little really warming chat before the.
Okay, fine.
We still have a few minutes before starting. We see that we have Nabil Jawa here, Giorgio, Jalias, Zahra. So welcome everybody. Waiting for the others to come. So
I've seen many registrations.
Yeah.
250 or something like that.
Yeah. So we'll have international audience today. Hope.
Okay, that's great.
How is the impact of coronavirus on coaching, Philippe?
Surprisingly good.
Yeah, I share that feeling too.
It's surprising, but I had last year one of my best years in number of clients and new clients and hours of coaching. So it was a very good year. It was also a very good year for the coach training.
Yeah. And I think that the main work was online, right?
Everything was online, but I'm a kind of person that has to be very careful due to my age and physical status. And
You're still young, Philippe.
So I kept everything online, but I had more requests for individual coaching, some requests for team coaching, but also a lot of internationalization of the training. Right, the fact that training is in French, I had many people coming from African countries, for example, where I would never go for a live training.
Joseph, hi.
Hi, guys.
How are you doing?
I'm doing
good
good.
to see you.
How are you? Good
I'm
to see
doing
you.
great. How about you?
Good. Very good. Very good. Hi, Philippe.
Good day, all.
Hello, good morning. Good morning or good afternoon. I don't know where you are.
I'm from India.
I'm from India.
So it's good evening for you.
It's evening, 5:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And I'm in Singapore, and it's almost 8 p.m. here.
Okay.
So yeah. So
nice
where are you, Philip?
With you.
Where are you, Philip?
Different.
I'm in Belgium.
Belgium. Okay. Yeah. Antwerp.
No, I'm living, if you know a little bit, Belgium, between Brussels and Liège, in a very small village.
Okay.
Almost in the field and agriculture environment. So
very nice.
Connected to nature.
Yeah.
But I'm at 50 kilometers of the main cities.
Okay.
Okay. Just in the center of everything, so it's very easy for people to come.
Very nice.
You're enjoying a quiet, inspiring life.
Exactly, and for the moment we have snow here. Not a lot, but we have before. But it's -8 degrees this morning.
Wow.
So it's well freezing. For some of you, you never know. It's so cold.
So.
You pay very expensive holidays to go someplace where it's cold. But yeah, we have it here.
Yeah, pros and cons. We can't get everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see also some friends. Parakaraan. So how shall I pronounce your name? Sorry for that.
Sorry, you can call me Gopalan.
Gopalan, yeah. Gopalan, you're welcome.
Maybe I'll rename myself.
No. It's great as it is.
Because Prabhakaran is my name. Gopalan is my father's name, but a lot of people struggle with that. And Nair is the family name.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, so everybody decided to call me Gopalan somewhere down the line.
Gopalan, Nair, so both work. Your work, New York. So we see also Sonia. Hi, Sonia.
Hello, how are you?
How are you doing? We're doing great. How about you? Nice to have you always among us.
Yes, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here, and thank you for the speakers, and thank you for this very interesting webcast. We are really looking forward to it.
Smiles like yours are the thing that is encouraging us to do this.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Always the good word, guys. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I think we can get started. So 1 more minute and we shall start.
Okay.
Okay, welcome everybody. Hello, Zahra, welcome.
Thank you.
Really, I'd like to get to know all of you. So I wished we had enough time for each one of us to introduce himself, what's he's doing. But you know, it's just 1 hour, and it will really be challenging for us to cover the course content or the topic, and also give the space and the floor for each one to introduce themselves. But really, deep down in my heart, I wish I knew everyone here close and get to know him or her in person. Brenda, hi.
Hi.
Hello. So welcome everybody. So let's get started. So let me start by introducing our guest speaker for today, Philippe Declercq. He's an MCC coach with 30 plus years of experience as a coach and a mentor. He's the director of Pi-coach program and an ICF credentialing assessor. So we're here to talk about one of the new skills added to ICF competencies, which is the coaching mindset. So Philippe, the floor is yours to introduce us to this competency and how is it important for us to master. So the floor is yours. You're very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Most of you, I'd like to know how many of you are members of ICF and credentialed coaches. Just put a little word in the chat with your first name and your credentials so that I know who has a credential at ICF or at EMCC. Why not? If you are a member of the EMCC. Just I'm looking at the.
Hi, everybody.
I see some. Okay.
Hi, Stephen.
Great. I see Gopal and Johnny towards working. Yeah, many of you are already in the ICF world. It's nice. So you know from your participation with ICF that in last year ICF announced a new set of ICF core competencies. For more than 25 years, for 25 years, we were working under the influence of so-called the 11 competencies. So a very large study has been done by ICF in the 2 last years to see what had changed in the real life of coaches and to rewrite the competencies with the learning of something like 2,300 interviews and a large group of information. And with this, they developed new competencies descriptions. Most of the 11 competencies are still into the new description, but a very new one came in. It's the competence 2. And the competence 2 says that the coach embodies a coaching mindset. And this is really new into the content. Maybe some people should switch their microphone off while we hear some domestic noises around. Thank you. So the definition, I will share my screen so that you see also the text of what I'm saying. Where is the... Up. This is it. Share. So, as I said, the definition of this new competence is that the coach develops and maintains a mindset that is open, curious, flexible, and client-centered. It says that it is a process that requires continuous learning and development of the coach to establish a reflective practice and to prepare himself or herself for coaching sessions. These elements are developed over the course of a coach professional career. So it's a continuous process to improve this coaching mindset. And you can also have a spirit and state of mind that says that this coaching mindset goes beyond just the coaching sessions. It's also all the behavior that a coach will have with his clients and relationship, and even in its total professional and private relationships. This coaching mindset to be open, curious, centered to the others, instead of willing to place himself in front. There are, as you know, by ICF, several sub-competencies that are described under one major competence. Case, maybe if someone want to ask a question, they can write it in the chat, and you can interrupt me when you feel that there is a question I should answer. So I invite everyone to write questions.
We want it to be interactive, Philip, if you don't mind. So we want it to be interactive.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
At any moment, guys, if you'd like to ask a question, you can raise your hand and we give you the floor to do. Go ahead.
You're very, very welcome. So it's interesting to know your questions while it opens new reflections. So the very first sub-competence that is described is, sorry, I have two here, to acknowledge that clients are responsible for their own choices. The client is the one who knows best what is right for him. He is the expert of his life. And the client decides whether or not to take the actions he has determined to move towards the achievement of freely defined goals. It's the client who decides for himself. It needs in the contractual aspect that the client is committed and that his responsibility to keep his commitment is high. We ask the client to draw a faithful portrait of himself and of the situation, and to express oneself as honestly as possible about his feelings, difficulties, emotions, to be open-minded with himself. So that's what we ask of the client in the contract, and we expect that the coach will build a situation where the trust is present in both directions, and that during the whole coaching process, but also during the whole relationship with the client, not only during the coaching sessions. So this is the first one, to really acknowledge that the client is responsible for his own choices. Sorry, ladies, I use sometimes the masculine wording. It's just to say the client in general. I don't mean a man or a woman. So it's really interesting. It's just by my personal translation, le client in French means it's as well the man or the woman. So. The second aspect, which was already known but not mentioned in the sorry, I don't know what happened. Voilà. Not mentioned into the competencies, is that the coach engages in ongoing learning and development as a coach. The one working with ICF know already that there are some aspect of this continuous learning that you have to prove when you renew a certification, for example, you have to prove that you did a minimum of 40 hours of continuous development in core competencies and other aspects of the coaching life. Also about the ethics, for example, that's an important element that you have to show. But this was not stated into the competencies of the coach. So it reinforced the need of going further. In the coaching profession, you learn all the time. With every client coming, you learn something new. And that's interesting. But it's only useful if you are conscious about what you learn and that you model your learning and you apply it in different situations. So that's for the auto learning. It's very important to have this modeling of your learning and to have a reflective practice. We will come back on it to model your discoveries. Continued education has also the capacity to bring us new models and to apply first to our own coaching. I was discussing with a coach in supervision recently, and came to my mind a kind of image. If you imagine that the client is sitting in the middle of a room and you have different chairs around him, and you can spring from one chair to another chair as a coach, depending of the facet that the client is lighting at that moment. Easy lighting is weakness. On this point, you have to jump on that chair to be able to discuss. And that's what the number of chairs you have available for you, it's what you learn in the continuous learning process. And so you can see and understand more facets of the client and be in different position of observation. And that's the advantage of the continuous learning. So in the beginning, when you start, maybe we have 4 or 5 chairs around the client, and there are some subtleties that we cannot see. And the more we grow, not only learn by going to training, but also modeling our experiences, we receive more and more chances to have more capacity to see the client changes. Indeed, we are committed to 40 hours, but is this enough? So I would like to see in the chat one short answer by everyone is, if you estimate in 2020, last year, how many hours did you spend in learning process? So please write in the chat what your learning was during last year in number of hours. Ten times 40, that's 400 hours. That's nice. More than 100, yeah. What do we have? A lot of time. Every experience is a way to learn, sure. $16 coaching hours, many hours, resting, non-official training, okay. 4 hours per week. 6 months learning program with positive intelligence. Marina, we are on the same, I think. I'm doing this positive intelligence learning program for the moment also. Over 100, yeah. If you want, Marina, we can exchange once about this. I see that most of the people here are really keen to continue the development of coach, and that's very interesting. To have this attitude, and you can count in your house what you learn by yourself by reading books, by reading novel text of different blogs in the internet. There are many ways to learn, but the better one is once you integrate that by modeling it into your coaching, applying it in your coaching, and discovering how good it could be for your client, what you did learn. And how much it will help your client to be more conscious of their situation. The third point is something that many coaches were looking about that, and the question has been very often asked by coaches at the ICF of why is supervision not mandatory? And that has been a long time discussion, and I'm very glad as a supervisor to see that the spirit within ICF is changing for the moment. And if you have been following the recent information, there is a complement to the competencies here, the 8 competencies. There is a new complement that has been produced for team coaching. And in this complement for team coaching, in the competence, you read that the coach.
You're on mute, Philippe.
Sorry. How long have I been unmute?
No, it was short.
Okay. So I said there is a change at ICF now regarding the supervision of the coach. And the new competencies described for the team coaching, it's clearly stated that the coach is having a supervision process. So it's new, it's a new spirit. And this week, they also announced that there is a new practice group around supervision. But reflective practice is not only supervision. Supervision is one of the ways that you can have a reflective practice. You can have individual work of reflection, and that joins the point I was saying about ongoing learning. But doing yourself your feedback about different coaching and having a reflection about those coaching, the difficulties you felt, the emotions you did live, the impact of the environment on your coaching and so on. So it's interesting to see it. For example, one of the questions a coach can ask himself now is, what is the impact of the COVID for my coaching, but also for my individual relationship with my client? Is there an influence? The fact that I work more on distance with tools like this one, Zoom, does it change my way of understanding the client? Does it change my way of seeing the client? It's a reflective practice that you have to do. And you can do it alone. You can do it also with colleagues and ask another coach to work with you on this reflection, having a discussion with them. You can for sure also make a contract with a supervisor and have regular supervision in group or individual supervision to discuss the different aspects. Just one point, ICF makes very well the difference between supervision and mentoring. And mentoring is really improving your technical skills as a coach, where supervision is working on your person and your doing and your being as a coach. They're just different. So you can have your self-awareness, but he spoke of it, contributes to the development of your intelligence and spiritual intelligence and emotional intelligence. So it's interesting to see that by this reflective practice, you raise your personal level also on emotional and spiritual level. So you have peer coaching, you have all kinds of things that allows to do supervision. So same kind of question, just how many of you have worked with a supervisor in 2020? I'm curious to see how many of you did work really with a supervisor in 2020. It is just to write yes, and that's how I work with a supervisor. Make it short, just write yes or no. There's no need to say no if you don't. Let's see, me too, me too. So we are 42 here, so I'm trying to see how many, what is the percentage here, the 42%. Can you help me, guys, with this, looking at the answers?
Yeah, it's about 10%.
For the moment,
yeah, maybe 10, 15%.
Okay. But it's maybe one question, the first question to ask yourself, and I did for myself also, honestly. In the very first year I was a coach, I didn't feel the need to work with a supervisor. I did understand clearly the advantage of working with a supervisor. And then I discovered it later, I would say, yeah, after 5 or 6 years. When I was thinking, I'm very strong, I can do it, I don't need somebody to help me. I'm good enough and strong enough to do that. And I discovered that in some coaching, I had difficulties to get out of this feeling to be strong and to have this obligation to bring the client to a success in the coaching. And that's when I discovered that working with a supervisor would help me to diminish at least this attitude of being strong and being the one who knows what to do, and to go more with a modesty to somebody who just sustain the client in his reflection and not bringing solutions. So I had myself to discover it, and since that I'm a fan of being supervised, and have a regular contract with two different supervisors. I found that they had 2 different ways of shaking me. So it's interesting to go further on that.
Philippe,
Yes.
you really discussed that a little bit, but Johnny is asking again, so about the difference between mentoring and supervision.
So I see the question. The difference is, and I'm speaking of ICF definition here, while if you discuss with people for AMCC, you will have a different definition. But for ICF, there are 2 different roles. The mentor is there to help coach to gain the technical skills that are needed to be credentialed. So what do you have to know to be an ACC? What do you have to show that you can do to be an ACC? What do you have to show that you can do to be a PCC? What you can do to be an MCC? That's really on the doing of the coaching. Supervision is about who I am as a coach. What is my person? Where can I improve my personality and my way of being a coach? Not doing coaching, but being a coach. So that's really the difference between supervision and mentoring. And supervision will work on your personal weaknesses of difficulties or habits that you have, of beliefs that you have that are not helping you in being the right coach that you would like to be. I gave my personal example. I had the tendency to give the solution to the client, to be a consultant for him. That was my difficulty. And so I only was able to fight this difficulty really significantly by working with a supervisor that showed me where I found pleasure in doing that, and what other pleasure I could be able to find by being a different person, more curious, more open, believing in the strengths of my client, that the client doesn't need my strengths, but I have to help him to reveal his own strengths. So that was really the difference. I hope if I just answer on that question. Now, who can be a supervisor or a mentor? To be a mentor, it's necessary to have understanding of what are the competencies and what are the ICF evaluator coach and the famous markers, and understand what are the markers. So a training about assess as an assessor and knowing well the markers is something very interesting. And to be a supervisor, I would recommend to work with a supervisor that took the time to follow a real deep training on supervision. It is a little bit like coaches. You don't go to a self-proclaimed coach. You don't go to somebody who says, I'm a coach and never had studies about coaching. It's the same as a supervisor. And honestly, I did it. I did 1 year training on supervision, and it's tough training. It's something heavy, even on yourself and on the being as a supervisor. It's a tough training, and I'm very proud I did it. So who can be, I would say, officially, everyone can put a name on his nameplate and say, I'm a supervisor or a mentor. But you, as a client of the supervisor mentor, I suggest you to verify that they really had the training that is necessary to do it properly. Any other question about this supervision and this reflective practice? But don't forget, the reflective practice is also the spirit that you put in it. Do you take the time to reflect about your practice? Do you take the time to reflect about specific difficulties or obstacles you did meet with one or another client? Do you share that with somebody? And at the higher level, do you share it with a trained supervisor? So there are 3 levels of reflective practice that are necessary as a coach. May I go to the next point? Or are there still questions on that? Okay. So another point is the fact that the coach remain aware and open to the influence of the context and the culture on himself and others. And for the moment, we are living really a specific influence. That's the COVID and the pandemic and all the consequences, like the fact that we have to stay at home, that we cannot meet with people, that we have to find new ways of doing. So the spirit of a coach and the mindset of a coach is that it remains aware and open to find new ways of doing things and to find new ways of communicating with their clients, to also find new ways of having the reflective practice due to the external new conditions. And the culture is also an aspect for the coaches that are working on international basis. It's very interesting to be open to the differences of culture. And to understand that some aspects of our clients are influenced by the context and the culture. I'm training a lot of people in North Africa also, and some from Africa, from French-speaking countries in Africa. It's interesting and to be curious and to understand that there are answers they give to your questions that are influenced by their culture or the context. And in the culture, I can include religion, for example, is a part of the culture that makes that people have significantly different ways of understanding the world and seeing the world. A coach is open to accept that and to accept that these influences accept. There are no questions on this point. Culture does matter. I'm based in Cambodia. Family values are very strong. Yes, I see this. And that's true for many countries. There is a good theory that might be learned by coaches, which is called the spiral dynamic. Some of you heard about it, maybe. But that's maybe interesting to at least read to understand that we are living in a world where there are different levels. No, level is maybe not the right word, but there are different cultures and different that are evaluating and changing in a different pace. If you look the difference between some countries like here in Europe or in the north, generally in the north of the world, and you compare the status and the way of behaving, the way of understanding, and you say Cambodia, for example, the family values are very strong. They are weakened in the north of the world, and I mean Americas and Europe. The family values are weaker. So it's a difference of culture that we meet as a coach also. And the spiral dynamics is maybe a way to having a way to think about it. I don't say that the spiral dynamic says all the truth, but it's a way to think and to understand the differences. Maybe one day we can speak of it, but it's too long to discuss it today. I see that somebody has made a little note on the page, but that's nice. Next point, in the coaching mindset, the coach uses awareness of self and one's intuition to the benefit of the client. if you remember, for the ICF coaches in the competencies we had before, the direct communication and indirect communication. The indirect communication, the coach was invited to express his emotions and his feelings, and eventually the thought that he has during the coaching. And then, so this is reinforced here to see that in the partnership between the client and the coach, it is very strong if the coach acts as a partner. And as a partner, he has also thought, he has also feelings, and also all kind of aspects, intuitions that he can have. So the coach is invited to use his awareness and to use his intuitions when it helps the client. A very simple example is, say, if you feel that your client has difficulties and that he wants to please everyone around him, to have a question like, to just state, I have the impression that it is difficult for you to say no. That's using your intuition. It's not necessarily supported by what the client has said, but you offer this intuition to the client, and maybe it will work, maybe it will not work. So, but that's really using the intuition to the benefit of the client. We already have seen also that with the reflective practice, the coach increases his self-awareness. He knows better how he reacts himself on situations, and that helps the client to know and to answer the question, how to put my self-awareness and intuition at the service of the client. When is it good to do it? And it's really by trial and experience that you will learn how to do it at the best way. There is no real rule that we can write and say, no, you can do this, no, you can do that. So it's not, doesn't exist in that way. So we have this, we can use many things like images generated by our imagination, intuition, proposing a metaphor to the client and saying, when I heard this situation, I have the image coming to me of this or that, and to use this metaphor to support the client. And this metaphor is coming from your own intuition and the way of understanding the situation. Spontaneity and humor are also part of what can be done in this way. So having, if you have a funny thought, but why not telling it to the client and just having this sharing of information that goes by the humor? Why not? And we see also that it's important that the client works on his way to develop and maintain the ability of regulate his own emotions. It's interesting, we already touched the subject several times, and if we speak of accepting cultural differences, of having reflective practice, so that's the way we try to regulate our emotions. I did just quickly say that reflective practice helped to develop emotional intelligence also. So emotional intelligence being the way to accept the signals that are given by our emotions and use this in a positive way and a useful way. So it's quite related. The relationship with another human being, like our client, goes as much through the relational mind as through the heart of the sensation in our body. And so if we ignore this part of the relationship, we can also miss something. And by the reflective practice, the coach will learn to distinguish the emotions and reactions that make him progress in serving the client goal. I see that there are some. Yes, I see, Johnny. The question, does embodies has anything to do with soma body? I cannot answer this question directly, but what I can say is that if the coach ignores what is happening with himself or with herself during the coaching session, he misses probably a way to support his client. If you feel not at ease physically during a coaching, there is probably a message that is telling your body is telling you that you can use. If you can be open to this message, you can use it to help your client and say, I don't feel comfortable with the situation we are discussing for the moment. And not feeling comfortable is that it's a body sensation. It's not the mind, it's not the heart sensation, it's really your body. So that's interesting, this question. And I never thought about if it has something to do with soma, but certainly understanding what your body is telling yourself, it's certainly an important aspect of the learning that you can do and in the reflective practice. These emotions that we have during the sessions and are wonderful signals. They are so useful, and what you have as emotion is credible. It means something is happening. And it's interesting to know that the emotions are coming from some events around us. They don't just spring in our mind if there is no events, but we can have internal events also. By not feeling comfortable in our body, we can have an emotion also. And it's interesting to see how strong it will be to share with your client what's happening to you as a coach during the coaching. How much it shows the client maybe it's what other people live with him or her. So that's developing and maintaining the ability to regulate one's emotion. There is also one point that maybe of reflection to have. It's how do I take care of myself? How do I take care of myself when I do coaching and I receive all these messages from my clients? How do I have an extreme self-care of myself when I do coaching? And that's one of my responsibilities also, to take care of myself. And for that, we have different ways to express our intuitions and our emotions. We have the way to have this reflective practice also, to have an extreme self-care.
There is a comment on the chat.
Yes.
Goblin is saying,
yeah, being vulnerable as a coach in the moment with the client. Yes. Yeah, it is something very, very important. If you hide your emotions during coaching, you're like somebody sitting on a seat a bit higher than the client and be like the judge that has no feelings and say what's happening and just stays in the head and just say, well, you know, from your practice, and you know that if the head is not aligned with the heart and with the body, nothing will happen. So if you don't allow yourself to be aligned with your head, your heart, and your body by accepting what's happening, and being vulnerable is accepting what's happening to you and recognizing what's happening to you, be aware of what's happening to you. That's being vulnerable, accepting to say to the client, I don't know what's happening now. We have to continue to search, to continue to be curious. But okay, I'm lost also, like you. So let's continue to search together. There were other questions I've seen here also. Telling the client what is happening to me, would that not come in the way of staying out of the picture? And that's being afraid of that's being afraid a little bit of of our own conception of what do I do with the emotions of the others. And we project on ourselves and on the relationship with our client, our feeling or our beliefs about what are emotions and what do they do. There is one thing to have an emotion, the other thing is how you react to the emotion, and that's the emotional intelligence. So telling your client that you feel, for example, sad with the story that he's telling, it's okay. The only thing is, what do you do with that? but understanding what compassion do you offer to your client by the fact that you live an emotion. So telling the client what is happening to me, would that not, no, I don't think I go out of the picture. I just remain human with my client by having also emotions. The coach is not a kind of God figure that asks questions and says what to do in a very quiet and calm place. It's a partner of the client, and he has his own way of living. And we try to have a way of living that is the sage side of ourselves.
Just to add a little bit, I'd like to ask about the same thing. Is it about sharing about our emotions, saying I feel things, or sharing about our thoughts, I think?
It might be both. You can tell to the client, when I'm listening to you, it came on my mind, this idea. I just offer it to you. It's sharing your mind. It's not influencing. It's very different. If you would say, why don't you do this? That's influencing. But if you say, listening to you, it came in my mind that the signification of that might be this or that. You offer it to the client, and he has the right to say, no, not for me. That while you're just offering, you're not suggesting. And as the same way, you can express your emotions, and you can. Sometimes the situation the client is describing looks like your own situation. And why not tell the client, I understand well, and I feel my emotions are coming back while I did live something similar recently, or whatever. You don't need to go deeper than that. Just sharing to show that you are a human that understands and lives what's happening. Do I understand? Do I answer your question with that?
Yeah, great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
To take care of myself before, during, and after the session in coaching, that's what exactly the point that is coming now. Mentally and emotionally prepare for the sessions. We are living for the moment in a difficult situation, and the fact that we do the coaching online, I see some of my colleagues that have their appointment one after the other one, 1 hour, and there is no time in their agenda before the next meeting and the next meeting and the next meeting, and so they align 3, 4, 5 sessions one after the other without any stop, without any time of emotionally and mentally preparation for each session. So it's interesting maybe to ask everyone here to just say, what do you do to prepare yourself to a coaching session? And just not to be too long in the answers, how much time do you use to prepare yourself to a coaching session? You can answer in the chat. 30 minutes is fantastic. 20 to 30 minutes, yeah. I empty myself by clearing my mind. Yeah, at least 20 minutes. Yeah, 10 to 15 minutes, yes. So always buffer 30 minutes between sessions. Marina, thank you. Not everyone will understand that, but that's fine. That's short session of attention to your physical status. Just to exercise of relaxations. Okay, Johnny also, pick your reps. Yeah. There's a little bit secret discussions, that just, we are all, those answering that are following the same sessions and the same training about positive intelligence. That's where it's coming from. And these are exercises to raise your positive quotient. But I won't go too much in the explanation of it. But that's interesting to see that everyone understands the need to have a time between two sessions. I'm not an expert in neurosciences, and the image I will give to you now, it's maybe totally wrong technically, but I think it's true in the fact. When you have a very intense activity, you develop in your brain a kind of tempest of storm of hormones of all kinds. And your brain is then focused on some parts of the brain that are useful for this specific intense activity. And it takes about half an hour to have your brain coming back to a calm status, to absorb all what has been generated physically and chemically in your brain. And so 30 minutes is the time you need to be really totally again open and aware and capable to be really at the service of your client. It's very long. Sometimes it's difficult to put in our day, but it's maybe a point of reflection. So how do I do to be again fully at the disposal of my client, not only in my head, but also in my heart and my body. I'm really at the disposition. And if I use the 30 minutes between two sessions to answer my mails, to do something again intense, it doesn't really help. So it has to be really a moment of lowering the tension so that we are more at ease. Just for the fun and the information, I asked my client to do the same, to prepare themselves to a session by some quiet time. And when they were coming to my home, which is about half an hour of the major city, so most of my clients had 30 minutes to 35 minutes to drive, I asked them to switch off their phone when they get in the car, not when they arrive in front of the house here. And to do the same when they leave, to not switch their phone on when they leave, but just switch it when they arrive at the place where I have to go after the coaching session. And jokingly, I tell them that they pay 1.5 hours for a session, but in fact, they receive 2.5 hours, while the 2 times half an hour that they have before and after counts for their coaching also. I see the difference. The one doing it, when they arrive, they know what they want to do in the coaching. When I ask the question, what do you like to explore today? They know what. Well, they have been thinking to it. They know where they are in the process. The one which is still on the phone in front of the door here, and I see them on the parking, and they are still speaking the last minutes, and they close the door of the car still with the phone in the hand, and they run to the door still with the phone. I see the difference. They are not ready to do the coaching. I need to have something with them for 5 to 10 minutes that is different, not yet the coaching. Going together to the coffee machine and having a coffee, drinking the coffee, relax, to change the time. Otherwise, they're not ready. And if I do the same, I'm not ready. Imagine if both of us are not ready, what it will happen in the coaching session. So that's my trick. But now that the people are working with video conference, it's much more difficult. While I see they are springing from a meeting to the coaching and they are rushing for the next meeting at the end of the coaching. What's happening in their brain? Everything is shaked and there is nothing working very well. So look, I don't think we are done to work intensely for 12 hours a day. That's not the way our brain is working. It's not done for that. And we force it, and that's how people come to burnout sessions, for example, and burnout time, while they never give time on their brain to slow down and to go at peace. A lot of breathing time, I see. Yeah. Thank you, Pranavi, for your comment and saying that you love the ID. And it's something which helps really the value of the coaching. sorry, there was one point we didn't seek. Yeah, another point also very, very important is for the coach to seek help when necessary. There are several ways where we can, there are situations and problems, moments in the coaching where we get stuck. We don't know what to do. We don't know how to go further with the client. We don't know what to study, what question to ask. From one side, it's a good moment when it happens in our coaching, the moment where we don't know, while it obliges us to be very curious and to go deeper and to have more questions to our clients so that both of us, we become to have a better image. But sometimes it's more complicated than that. We may be having a client that has very strong beliefs that he doesn't want to change and that he's afraid of changing. Sometimes you have clients' behavior that's beyond myself and I don't know what to do. So at that time, it's interesting to see if I can find help. And where can I find help? But there are 7 persons where we can help. We can help with a colleague with whom we can discuss the situation. We can have help with our supervisor also, or eventually also with a mentor if it is a technical aspect into the coaching. But sometimes we need to help the client also and make the difference between what is our role of coach and what is the role of a therapist, for example. So how do we do to do that? So I'm asking myself in the worst cases, are you ready? Do you know who to call? If you need an advice on psychological aspects, do you have a relationship with a psychologist or somebody like that to whom you can just discuss a situation? Do you have a relation? Do you have a list of things like? It never happened to me, but if somebody begins to speak of suicide in your coaching session, what will you do? Are you ready to do that? Do you know what to do? Do you have somewhere in your agenda the phone number of something like Suicide Prevention Center, for example, people you can call when you have that kind of situation and say, what can I do? Do you have that at your disposal? And that's also interesting. If you have the feeling that there is a psychological level which makes it difficult for the person to have the coaching, what will you do? How will you do it? How will you refer this person to go eventually somewhere else different? And there is an excellent white paper on the ICF website. If you just type in the search, referring a client to therapy. There is an excellent article on this, and I would suggest every coach should read that and having a knowledge of what is in this article. It's an excellent article. So referring a client to therapy. And I would really suggest that everyone read it. And it shows you first to understand what are the signs that you might see and recognize them, but also what to do. How to do it, how to present it to your client, how to discuss it with your client. The big danger is also to be the one doing the diagnose. We are not trained to do a psychological diagnose. So it's interesting to have to know what to do. Generally what I do, I say generally what I do, it happened 2 or 3 times in my life of coach, maybe 3 times on 20 years that I happened, or 18 years that I had to refer someone to somebody else. But what I suggest the person is to see with his family doctor if he has the energy to do the coaching. So I put it on the energetical level. I don't do any diagnosis of anything else. But the family doctor is trained and know how to do the diagnostic and how to send the person to the place where it needs to go. So I see that the time is going through. So hide the title of the referring clients to therapy. Yes, okay. It didn't pick up on which. On the ICF Global website, so coachingfederation.org. With the new site, I didn't check, but I think it's still there. But if you don't find it, let me know, and maybe via case we may send a note.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Philip, we still
Yes.
have something like 5 minutes. I don't know if you don't mind getting some questions.
Absolutely, we are here for that.
From the participants. So the floor is yours, dear participants. So if you'd like to vocally share an idea or comment or ask question, go ahead. The floor is yours. No question? It's not interesting? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. I think it's really very interesting and very useful. My question is, when I was hearing to you, I thought as if we are going towards a shift in the relationship between the coach and the client, in the sense that we are putting a dose of humanity in it, and we are putting a dose of like I am more keen to listen to what you are feeling and to share if I'm feeling the same. Is it a kind of shift in this relationship between the coach and the client, Philip?
The competencies reflect what was the result of the interviews of the coaches. So expresses what the coaches do, in fact, in the reality of coaching. And maybe in the 25 years where the 11 competencies were described, and today there has been a change in the humanity, and or at least in the way of doing coaching has been changing, maybe. And in this way, that might be a shift. Should not forget that the origin of the coaching in the US is coming from performance coaching. And if we look at the origin of coaching in Europe, and more specifically in France, and the coaching is coming more from the something from the psychological side of the person. So there was a little bit the difference by the being of the person more regarded and the doing more regarded in the US. So there is a mixture that is coming between those two philosophies of coaching, and that is the shift that you mentioned. Is that there has been a mutual influence, and probably all the coaches are more aligned now that the doing and the being are together, and that we have to work on both aspects if we want to be the most at the service of our client. So most probably on 25 years, there has been a shift, yes. And these new competencies reflect the new status of the coaches. Like, for example, speaking of reflective practice, it was not a question of reflective practice in the 11 competencies. But now most of the coaches say that it's important to have a reflective practice if you want to stay good coaches. So you're right, there's a kind of shift.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. So another question, last question, comment before we leave.
So if someone wants to write to me, there are my contact information.
If there's no one asking, I would like to just ask a question. Gopal.
Go ahead.
Please, Gopal.
When we talk about the embodiment of the coaching mindset, how has that broadened the whole concept of coaching presence in effect?
Coaching presence remain a competence of the coach, and I see even emphasize it. It's funny to see that in the new competencies, for example, the competency 6 from the old model, powerful questioning, disappeared in favor of active listening, presence, and opening the awareness of the client. So it recognized that some people don't like questioning, but they prefer another form of conversation. And the real presence is to be able to adopt a kind of conversation that is useful for our client. So it reinforces the need for the coach to be really present. And when I speak of preparation and giving yourself the time, it's also to be more present to your client and not invaded by all the tasks coming from other activities. And the tasks are not only the one we realize, that's also the one happening in our brain without our will.
The subconscious.
The subconscious task. So you're right, the presence is always emphasis and remains a very key aspect of the coaching.
Thank you.
So we still have questions. Privately, people are asking me to jump in and ask questions. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah. I will maybe stop the screen sharing. So.
Sonia, you have another question. Go ahead.
Yes, please. Thank you, guys. Actually, it's a question about another competency regarding the new 8 competencies. You know, because we are discovering it and going deep inside it. I'm thinking about the competencies, the competency that is called it's in French. Sorry, but I think you are French speaking as well.
Yeah.
Suscite des prises de conscience, which is a kind of mixture between competency 5, 6, 7, a part of 8. This is my question, actually. Is it a kind of mixture of all this 5, 6, 7 and part of 8? Or it's something that we can like take from all the competencies and put over there? Because with some peers, we get insight to this competency. And we found that 1, 2 is a kind of, 1 to 3 is a kind of questioning, 4, 5 is a kind of direct communication, 7 is a model, you know. Thank you. Sorry.
If you look at the competence, you can see that there are competencies that I can call environmental. So what is the frame in which you do the work? That's how do you respect the ethical code? How do you set up the contract with the client? And how you prepare yourself as a coach. That's the embodying the coaching mindset. Then you have a certain number of competencies that describe your posture during the.
You're on mute, Philippe. It's breaking up. We can't hear you, Philippe. Guys, can you hear me? I can't hear Philippe.
No, we can't hear Philip. I think his mic is there, but
yes,
his mic is there. It's not mute, but we can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
We can't hear him. I think maybe he accidentally brought it down to 0.
Yeah, something like that. It's about the mic.
Better now.
Now it's working. Yeah.
Hi. That's my system will switch off the microphone. So the idea is we see frame and discussing what is the frame. So by having what is the contract that we do with the client, what is the ethical position of the coach, and what is the mindset of the coach. That's really describing the frame. Then you have action descriptions, like I don't remember all the titles of the 8 new competencies, but you describe the actions, and then you have also some that describe the posture also of the coach during the session, like presence, for example. The actions are active listening, and developing the awareness of the client is an action, and transforming this awareness into action for the client, which is the last 8th competence, is also an action of the coach. So there is this difference. Now it reflects the way of coaches are thinking today in comparison with what coaches were thinking 25 years ago. And it's a miracle what's happened at ICF. Well, 8 coaches sat together in 25 years ago and created the 11 competencies. And this has been regarded as the best practice model of coaching for the world for 25 years. It's incredible.
Yeah. So true.
And-
So
Yeah.
I think with this we come to the end of our webinar. So before we leave, we'd like first to open our camera to take a beautiful picture that we can share with everyone, and as a sign of gift for Philippe. So George, hi George. Let me see you, my friends. Vivian, hi. Hello, 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 everybody. So we open the camera to get a beautiful picture together. So I can see your smiles. Okay. Hi, Bernard. Hi, Marina. I like what you said on the chat. Like you said something interesting. You said, let me say it. I feel being part of a transformative family. I like that. That's exactly the purpose of this community. So let's take the picture. Smiles. Cheers, guys. 1, 2, 3. Where are the positive vibes? Here we go. Thank you all. Thank you all. Applause for Philippe for being here. We're so grateful for you for being with us today. Thank you. We hope to see you in others webinars on other topics. And thank you for all the participants. So we keep coming together, learning and growing together. Thank you all. See you soon. Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.